Had a bunch of new audits come out. California spent $37 billion on homelessness as homelessness goes up almost 40%. Lacking results, say the data. All this money being spent. $13 billion possibly spent on outsiders, people not from California. Is this shocking? No. What did the details look like? Let's get into it. Here we go.
The audit combed through $2.5 billion in city spending. Problem is, auditors found city officials had no idea who got paid and for what.
There were days when we see 2 and 3 overdoses.
Sergio Moreno's business sits in the heart of Skid Row, where he says he often sees homeless people overdosing on drugs, and he's had suspicion on how the city of Los Angeles has managed the response system to the problem.
It's not just dollars we're talking about. Those dollars translate into people's lives.
His feelings have been heightened following an independent audit commissioned by a federal judge that was released Thursday. It found the city was unable to track exactly how it spent on homeless programs. The Los Angeles Alliance for Human Rights pressed for a series of audits in recent years.
It's heartbreaking. It's atrocious. It is immoral. It is unjustified. But what it's not is surprising.
Many of the problems identified
True.
were at the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, known as LAHSA. Auditors say the paper trail provided by the agency was so poor, it made tracking the money spent nearly impossible. We're talking about $2.5 billion last year.
It is an actual infrastructure disaster because the truth is everybody's in charge and nobody's in charge. There are no checks and balances.
And that's not just California. That's Washington. Our King County Regional Housing Authority, it's just this big mammoth organization with a massive budget that, where's it going? How come homelessness is, the way that it is? A lot of people involved. Still got encampments all over because you can't play whack-a-mole and expect it to actually change. Just moving people around. They're still people. They're going to be out there. They're going to have needs.
The Office of LA County Supervisor Lindsay Horvath sent a statement that read in part, "This audit is another reminder of what we already know. The current homeless services system is broken. We need accountability and results right now, which is why I'm proceeding with the creation of a consolidated county department that will end this nightmare." The president of the Downtown LA Neighborhood Council believes there are other record-keeping problems.
Even the homeless count is not accurate. Nothing
Correct.
is accurate, and
Yeah.
based on data.
2 here.
Yes.
2 right here.
Auditors found a series of problems on how tax dollars are spent after reviewing nearly $2.5 billion in city funding.
This needs to be an opportunity that our leadership cannot waste. They must pivot and actually implement things that do work.
The Office of LA Mayor Karen Bass sent a statement that read in part, "This audit validates our work to change what's festered for decades. We still have work to do." We also reached out to LAHSA for comment, but we haven't heard back.
The problem you have is that none of the current approaches, housing first isn't going to work. Harm reduction doesn't work. You've got a whole bunch of people running around out there doing drugs, living their wild lifestyle. That isn't going to change. Again, prison, detox, treatment, mental ward. You got a whole bunch of people. You start to square away those 3 things, I guarantee you, you're going to take 95% of the people off the streets. But you got to do some of that involuntarily because these people don't want to go into housing. They don't want to go inside. They want to keep doing what they're doing. And they've done that because build it and they will come. You've built all the infrastructure for these folks to live basically rough outside, not within confines of society. And they've been given all of the resources. Why would they change that? They won't. They're going to need to be forced, involuntary. You're going to have to do some stuff involuntary. And we're not at the point where people can sit down and have an honest conversation about that yet, nor will they be until a whole bunch more stuff like this comes out. Where'd the money go? All those guys over there sitting, in their $200,000 salaried jobs that are loaded up with benefits, they're taking all the money. Make something make sense. Make it work. We're not there yet. Yeah, California Legislative Analyst's Office says the state has spent $37 billion since 2019 and undercounts the homeless. So all of these numbers that we're looking at, those are typically percentage that homelessness has gone up. I mean, at least add a bunch of percentage points to that, right? When I hear that it's gone up 24%, I immediately think, okay, so in reality, it's probably gone up 50% because these point in time counts where these volunteers go out into the field, out into where homeless people live, it's such a random counting and it's just one night. It's just one night. They're not, and counting homeless folks is like, herding little kittens. They go in all kinds of different directions. They're asleep in different places. They're way back in the bushes. They're in the forest. They're in the trees. They're literally living in the trees. Are you going up there and, who's here? No, you're not. It also urges delaying one of Governor Gavin Newsom's key programs until data proves its effectiveness. So much of this money is being spent on the bureaucracy of homelessness. All these people making a couple $100,000 just pushing paper around on their desk. That's where the money goes. It doesn't go into the actual construction of the beds or the housing that they're in. It goes to all of these people who have have a hand in the pie that is the industrial homelessness complex. 2023 UC San Francisco report found 34% of homeless individuals in California are not from California. Build it and they will come. And a third of the population, not from California. And that's not even talking about people within California that basically go between LA, San Francisco, Sacramento, Fresno, wherever you've got big populations of homeless people. You're not even talking about all those migratory people. You're talking literally about people who are like, all right, weather here in Wisconsin sucks. Need to keep my drug habit going out to California, going to California with an aching in my heart, right? I mean, meaning state taxpayers may have covered $12.6 billion since 2019 on homeless spending for individuals from other states or nations. Remember, all of the illegals that have come into the country, they count as homeless people as well. They're literally unhoused. We brought them in. So the numbers have kind of spiked up and then they've gone down because now you have a fraction of the people coming into the United States illegally through the southern border or the northern border. More coming in now through the northern border because the southern border, especially the Texas portion, has been just it's on lockdown. It's on shutdown, right? 2023 UC San Francisco report found 34% of homeless individuals in California are not from California. Here's one of the other data points. Court-ordered audit finds major flaws in LA's homeless services. They can't really figure out. Audit by the global consulting firm Alvarez and Marcel found that the city was unable to track exactly how much it spent on homeless programs and did not rigorously reconcile spending with services provided, making it impossible to judge how well the services worked or whether they were even provided. Californians, you are spending billions and billions and billions of taxpayers' dollars on stuff that you don't even know if it happened or not. Millions of dollars are being spent with these organizations that just pop up and they get a whole bunch of funding. Did they do anything? We're not really sure. Don't really know. But what we do know is homelessness in California continues to rise. Albeit at a slower percentage most recently, but my theory on that is it's because the number of people flowing into America has slowed down considerably from the criminal illegal immigrants from the southern border. Thereby, you've got to slow down on homelessness, but not the homelessness that sleeps in tents, does drugs, and all of that good stuff. Two distinct populations, right? Contracts written by Los Angeles Housing whatever authority were vague, allowing wide variations in the service provided and their cost. Those findings echoed a November report by the LA County Auditor Controller that found lax accounting procedures resulted in the failure to reclaim millions of dollars in cash advances to contractors and to pay other contractors on time, even when funds were available. This is a lawsuit that came from the LA Alliance for Human Rights, a group representing business owners, residents, and property owners, which alleged that the city and county were failing in their duty to provide shelter and services for people living on the streets. You know, the homelessness thing is, here's another headline, LA cannot track money spent. One of my major things is that, with the whole homelessness deal, you're not going to be able to solve it with housing. That's just a no-go. That's not going to happen because you can't take a bunch of whacked out lunatic drug addicts that have mental issues, put them in housing and expect that to go well. Not going to happen. So what you've got is you've got jurisdictions after a recent Supreme Court ruling that basically said cities can basically clear out homeless encampments even if they don't have shelter for those people. And that's given a lot of cities the impetus to go, okay, now we're going to start clearing some homeless encampments. So they're spending money on that. Where do those homeless people go? Well, they hope away, but to where? These are people that need to be in jail if they're committing crimes, or a mental institution if they're not mentally competent to basically be in the legal system, or they need to be in treatment, or combination of all three possibly. Those are your only options. That's all you've got. So many of these people that are homeless, they're there because something happened to them and they tweaked out and they started self-medicating and they go down this brutal road, and big liberal cities basically give them everything they need to exist except the drugs. And then sometimes they even give them the drugs, right? So you got a story in San Jose. Homeless people in San Jose who refuse housing could face arrest under new proposal. Okay, what's going on there? So San Jose continues to look for solutions. The mayor proposed a new idea that would essentially force people into housing and threaten arrest if they refuse 3 times. Okay, we're going to give you 3 strikes and then you're out. Then we're hauling you to jail. Now, is this really going to solve the problem? No. But it gives a little bit of teeth to the law. Hey, we can't have you hanging out here in the park, doing your drugs, cramping over there by the kid's big toy, leaving hypodermic needles around, leaving tinfoil around because you're smoking so much fatty, having sex out in the open. We can't really have that in our city. So here's what we're going to do for you. Going to give you 3 warnings, and then we're going to arrest you. Is any judge in these big liberal cities going to say, oh, good Lord, a homeless person, put him in the clink? No, they're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. But this is at least a step in the right direction of doing something. Because at some point in time, unless you just want to just continue living with the homelessness the way it is, having Skid Row look the way that it does, have the Tenderloin look the way that it does, have areas of downtown Seattle, areas of downtown Portland look the way that they do. If you're okay with that, I'd say keep doing exactly what we're doing. But otherwise, you need to put people into treatment, detox, jail, psych ward. Those are the options. That's what you got. San Jose isn't quite there, but they're a couple of steps away, right? Man, the mayor said 1 in 3 people the city contacts refuses to take them up on their offer of housing. I bet you it's higher than that. In Seattle, I know it's higher than that. People are like, hey, you want to get into housing? Well, if it's my own apartment, it's really nice. And if it's the top floor and it's got some views, I'd take it. Otherwise, I'm going to stay out here and keep doing my drugs and keep doing the thing I need to do. And in so much of this housing, it's low barrier or no barrier, meaning they don't have to be sober, don't have to have a job, no accountability, no nothing, and they just keep doing their thing. And then they just keep doing it. So these cities are trying to come up with, okay, we've got this big homeless population. What do we do? You got to do something, right? Got to do something. This is what they're coming up with. One of my 3 options. We're going to send you to jail. How long are those people going to be in jail? I don't know. Say you put them in there for 6 months, then they come out, they're right back on the street. What are you going to do? We've created this absolute enormous monster of a problem, and you know where it happens? Big, blue, democratic cities, because they're the only ones that support it. The other smaller cities, the other towns, burgs, villages, whatever you want to call them, they don't have the resources for all this. They just simply don't. And so they take people to the county line, drop them off and say, see ya. Just kind of like in First Blood, right? Remember Brian Dennehy dropped off Sylvester Stallone, and then he's driving away in his cop car, and you see Sylvester Stallone turn around, walk from the kind of the edge of the city back in to the city. And, oh, he got mad. He got mad because, John Rambo, that was a great movie. That was a great movie. I digress. So under the new proposal, if someone refuses city provide housing 3 times in 18 months, you give them a year and a half, they could be arrested. Clearly, that is not going to happen. Not happening, right? Homeless advocates said arresting people for refusing goes too far. Does it? Does it? I don't know. What are they being arrested? Are they just being arrested for homelessness? Because guaranteed, if they're hanging out in a park, they're doing shenanigans, they've probably got a bust along the way for something else. Almost guaranteed. They've been stealing from the community. They've been stealing from their local Target, stealing from their local Safeway, stealing from whatever, because you still got to come up with just a few bucks to afford that drug addiction, don't you? Maybe if they're females, they sell their bodies. They're known as a tent hoe. They get passed around throughout the whole complex, and they don't have to pay for drugs. That's a real thing. It's a known quantity. And then you want to talk about, all right, empowering women. Yeah, that's not exactly empowering women just because they have an ATM in between their legs, right? That's not exactly empowerment. Crazy times we live in. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe. Hit that notification bell, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again for being here. Bye for now.